What's up? My name is Marcel. I am the co-founder of Dongxi, and Dongxi is a boutique consultancy based here in Berlin, and we cover all of the disruptive innovation coming from China. So tech, it's about digital China and so on. So please like and subscribe if you like the video. If you want to see more, please make sure that you don't miss out on any new videos. And please follow us also on LinkedIn if you can. Today's video is about NIO, and NIO is a e-mobility startup based in Shanghai, and in this video I'm going to share everything about why I think NIO has some very unique value propositions, what I like about their business model, why I think what they're doing is actually great and a good idea, and obviously, those who are following me for a little bit know that I am also personally invested in NIO. So I'm going to talk a bit about the recent earning and financial reports, so the Q3 numbers, and also about the ups and downs that happened recently. And I will tell you about my situation, what I'm doing with my shares, how I see it as an investor, and give a little bit of an outlook of what's happening currently with NIO. Most of you already know NIO. NIO was founded in 2014 in Shanghai. The chairman and CEO is called Li, and he's a serial entrepreneur, kind of known as the Elon Musk of China. And he also founded Outtro before, a startup which he ultimately also sold. NIO went IPO in 2018 at Nasdaq, got listed in the US, valued around $6 billion US dollars. But now, if you follow their shares and the share price, you've seen that they lost massive value recently, and currently they're valued just a little bit less than $3 billion US dollars. Now, here are my 6 top reasons why I think that NIO is kind of innovative, they do things differently, and also why I think they could coexist together with Tesla and ride this huge booming market of electric vehicles, first in China but then generally globally as well. As you might know, I'm also invested in Tesla, and I'm also a big fan of what they're doing currently, particularly in China actually. So I'm not one of those guys who thinks it's either or, and you should be either rooting for NIO or for Tesla. I think they have both a brilliant future if they know how to execute on their vision. Okay, first reason is pretty simple and obvious. The cars are just very well built, so that's partly due to the fact that some of the parts and the design is coming actually from Germany. So I obviously rode the cars already. I spoke to people, both Chinese and foreigners, who own the car, and all of them are very, very happy with the quality and the specs and how the car is performing. So that's first of all like one of the hygiene factors, and that's a thumbs up for what they have actually brought into the market. Is actually a very well perceived product. And if you compare it to whatever is out there currently, you could argue that like from the overall specs, they have a pretty compelling package here, and it's well priced. It may be a little bit better than, for instance, a Tesla when it comes to the interior, and at the same time it's better than the German competitors when it comes to the EV specs, and also from the overall functionality in terms of what comes with the car, and also what's built into the car. So that's all a very round and sound package here. The next reason what I really like about NIO is that they already have like the over-the-air software updates, and what they do with that is that they improve the NIO Pilot. I was recently in Shanghai and been able to already test like the latest version of the NIO Pilot, and in terms of what the industry and competitors and benchmark is doing, they're obviously not as good as the Tesla Autopilot. However, they're like a really good close follow-up in terms of road assistance. So as you can see in this video, when I was trying the NIO Pilot in Shanghai, you can just basically take your hands off the steering wheel for a certain period of time, and the car will drive itself. It will stay in the lane, it will follow the car in front of you, it will keep a distance to it, and it will brake automatically. And on top of that, you can also overtake and change the lanes automatically. So that's also a lot more than what other brands can currently do, and at the same time it's a little bit less than what the Tesla Autopilot can do. And on top of that, NIO is going so far that they went into a partnership with Intel, Mobileye, one of the leading tech providers for autonomous driving, to partner up in order to achieve level 4 autonomy. So that also gave actually NIO shares a quick boost because, Mobileye wants to build this autonomous system based on NIO vehicles. So that could be a huge deal in terms of bringing robotaxis, maybe first in China, onto the streets using both NIO as well as Mobileye technology. Another really interesting technology connected to NIO is the battery swapping. So the NIO vehicles are all equipped with battery swapping technology. That means you can drive to one of their stations where you can get a new fully charged battery in a couple of minutes. So I went to Suzhou and tried it out. We went there to the station. Lots of people were actually at the station currently, so it's pretty busy because currently that's even for free, a service that's offered from NIO for free. So instead of the Tesla superchargers where you go and you charge it, NIO goes with some charging stations as well, but on top of that you have the battery swapping technology, which means you can get this new battery in a couple of minutes, and this also helped NIO in solving one of the major crises which they had during a couple of months ago when they had battery issues, and so they could really swap those batteries, the old batteries which possibly had a defect, and switch them with some new batteries. And also in the future they might increase the capacity of the vehicles and the length and the range that they can drive simply by upgrading the battery technology. And currently you can actually go already from the very south to the north simply by using the NIO battery swapping stations. So that's a big asset that NIO is currently developing and also actually already brought it into the market. And the latest rumors around this technology are also very interesting. So they're sharing this battery technology with actually one of their competitors, Xiaopeng, which is backed by Alibaba. And so it seems like this could actually develop in one of the new revenue streams for NIO themselves, that they can license this technology or make it accessible to other OEMs in China. So if they also want to make swapping possible, those kind of auto car manufacturers will open up and use also the NIO battery swapping technology and open it to their customers. So pretty interesting kind of take on the range anxiety issue here. Another asset of NIO and how they are really innovative is their digital assistant. It's called NOMI, and it's kind of an AI-driven digital assistant within the car, a new kind of in-car experience. And with this small assistant, which is both cute and kind of funny, you can steer a couple of functions within your car. So you can, like you see here in the video, you can take a picture of yourself, but you can also have like more function-oriented applications, for instance, driving to a restaurant, getting navigation insights and stuff like that. And why I'm bullish on this technology is because, it kind of helped to brand NIO as a premium brand and also create a new user experience that the NIO customers really value. So it's actually even driving the sales in terms of that people, once they get into the car for the first time and experience this, they find it so new and so exciting that, this kind of is a USP themselves by itself, or also a differentiator between other car brands which don't have this kind of experience in a car. So it's very clever made, and also, let's say 2 to 3 years ahead of the competition. Even Tesla doesn't have it. They just released some voice assistance features with the last software update, but it's much less emotional, I would say. So pretty nice USP here for NIO. The next feature that NIO is really famous for, and it's both good and bad at the same time, are the NIO houses and most recently NIO spaces. So somehow the NIO houses, which are kind of, imagine like an Apple store for cars, are those pretty fancy, impressive places at the city centers all over China, which are very nice looking. You have a membership area where you can only get in if you are actually an owner of a car, and then you can go in, you can drink some fancy cup of cappuccino. You can listen to talks from other NIO owners or some experts which they bring inside. So building a community here, you can bring your kids there in order to just you go shopping and you let the kids at this place and play. So it's building a community here and have all of this premium attributes of a lifestyle brand which NIO introduced. However, it's also costing them a lot of money, so it's very expensive to setting up those places. Lots of investors are super unhappy that they're spending a lot of this money on those kind of on this kind of infrastructure. So it's good and bad at the same time. But now NIO came already up with a new concept which is called NIO Spaces, which are essentially smaller spaces than the NIO houses, and which they build more at the suburban areas of the cities. So they're much more cost efficient, and they can scale them up much more fast. So I think they have now between 40 and 70, I need to look it up again, all over the country. And that way they can also get more reach, get more traction, and also find more customers. So last but not least, the last reason what NIO is doing really unique and different to others is that they're actually a community and user-driven company. The CEO, Li Bin, he emphasizes this a couple of times. He actually even established a fund for NIO users where the fund investment is actually can be decided by the users of what is it being used for, and that's kind of at the core of what makes and breaks NIO actually. And it seems to add up right now, because I think lately Li Bin is referring to that more of 40% of the new sales that are coming in are actually referred to by old NIO customers. So that's pretty astonishing. And where all of this happens is, for instance, NIO clubs. So actually physical meetups of NIO users and NIO owners, all branded events and really big community events, sometimes at NIO houses, but also elsewhere. And also in the NIO app, which is a very, very big asset for NIO, because that's what Chinese companies are good at: digital services, growing a user base online, and adding e-commerce applications. So lots of cars can actually be sold just through online services. So that's very different to the traditional legacy manufacturers who all sell through a retail network. So NIO has more than 600,000, or I think actually more than 800,000 app users, which are very active in a community and the app. And so within the app you have many more functionalities. For instance, if you go into a NIO house, you can actually pay with the app with some NIO coins that you collected by for instance sharing or liking articles within the app. So that's the way how those Chinese companies manage to get lots of interaction within the app and keep people busy and using it. Obviously a very good tool in order to upsell and also to keep users retained and in order to create content that is user-focused and user-centric, and to create a community, last but not least. So these are the reasons why I'm actually super excited about NIO, what they are building. I think it's a brilliant example of a new startup that comes into your space, sees an opportunity and executes very well of it in the space, and also has some very exciting and new features and ideas which I think are actually defendable and unique. So that also got me in the first place to first of all care about what the company is doing, and second of all also invest a little bit of money into it. And maybe something else which adds to NIO on top of all of these unique values is that they have a very potent network of partners. So some of the big investors in NIO include Tencent, so the parent company of WeChat, NetEase, also a big industry internet giant in China. And also they have close relationships, for instance, to GAC, a Chinese OEM of cars, and so on. And now their partnership also with Intel Mobileye. So these are also really big names, and it's actually something that shows that this company manages to get really big partners into place and can execute on their vision. Okay, now let's come to the recent development about NIO, the share price and all of the ups and downs. So as I told you before, I'm also invested a little bit. So the first time when I bought NIO shares was actually around the $5 mark, when I got really excited about the company, and back then it looked like they were on track on meeting their estimations and also the deliveries. And also recently then the shares had a spike up to $10 when the CEO went on to 60 Minutes, a very popular TV show in the US. So more and more people heard about NIO, and obviously it also helped that they branded themselves as the Tesla of China. But then more and more problems became obvious, and NIO lost more than 50% of the market value. I think sometimes up to 80% of the market value. So the shares traded around $1.9. And well, during that time, what I did is accumulating more shares and basically bringing down my cost average, and ultimately throughout this time I never was really worried about NIO. I actually had the chance to interview one of the co-founders back in Shanghai. And you could relate that most of those problems were maybe a little bit, around the battery issue, which I think they solved in a brilliant way by replacing all of the batteries very quickly. And also, obviously, the downturn in sales in China of cars in general, but also with the reduced subsidies. Yeah, the EV market had a little bit of a setback. So these were the reasons back then. But when it really escalated was in September, when they first of all kept on postponing the Q2 call, the earning calls. They didn't release the numbers, or they didn't jump onto the conference call. And actually, one day before the announced date of the conference call, I went onto a LinkedIn live stream because the shares were dropping once again 25%, because the NIO management managed to actually blow off the conference call, only to call it in one day later in order to report the numbers. And that's when things kind of went started to be a little bit fishy here, in terms of it's not really trustworthy, right, if you behave like that. And numbers went down in terms of the deliveries and so on, and this kept on going. What's a little bit annoying, and maybe on the other hand clever in terms of what the NIO management is doing, is that they kind of released the earnings numbers very, very late. So by the end of 2019, they finally released the Q3 numbers. And I have this little Excel sheet where I'm kind of tracking of what are my estimations. And I was expecting around $290 million in revenue for this quarter, based on 4,800 sales, with an average sales price of $58,000 per vehicles. And when they reported the numbers, actually the revenue was less, so it was $242 million. So all in all, Wall Street really liked the Q3 earnings. So they were beating their own delivery guidance that NIO has set themselves. And the revenues were fine, and a very bullish outlook in terms of that they want to deliver more than 8,000 vehicles in a Q4, sorry. And that way, kind of boosting the NIO shares, which at that moment were obviously very, very low and very cheaply priced. However, well, as they kind of didn't meet my own expectations, which I've set, and because I also found when digging deeper into the company earnings, quite a few things that I found quite disturbing. I decided to sell the majority of my NIO stock, because the stock actually jumped to more than $4 a share, which meant for my personal case that I could sell the shares profitable, and luckily got out without taking any loss, and I sold around 90% actually of all of my shares and decided to stay on the sidelines for a while, because what really struck my attention is that NIO keeps on talking about that they will find and close a new investment which they need, because the company is currently cash strapped, and they haven't shown any progress on this. So during the conference call, there was no major news on who will be the new investor in NIO, and also they just managed to kind of lower down the cost, and they gave the outlook that in the future the cost will become even the cost structure will become even better. However, they still kept on burning massive amount of cash. So based on my revenue calculations and what I expected from cost reductions, and plus also the bonds which the convertible bonds which they offered from Tencent and Libin, around $200 million US. I was expected that NIO can reduce the cash burn down to around 150 million for this quarter. But in the end, what came out is that NIO keeps burning cash. So the cash equivalents by the end of Q3 2019 was 274 million US, which shows that they between Q2 and Q3 they burned another 230 million US in cash, based on what they had reported before, and this already includes the Libin and Tencent convertible bond, and this is kind of really a sincere situation right now in terms of taking the company forward. Well, the only outlook that the management gave is that kind of now that sales and revenues are growing again, they would be able to fund the company out of the cash flow of selling cars, which in a way makes sense. However, what I also saw was a problem with why there was a difference between the revenues that I estimated and the revenues that NIO finally published, was that the average sales price of the car was going down massively. So my estimations were based on the fact that the average revenue of per car sale will stay the same as the last quarter, but it seems like that NIO sold more cars also by giving more discounts on the cars. So that way they turned out selling more cars, but actually with less revenue in total, which for me kind of signals that yes, they managed to sell more cars, but also at a much lower price. So to me, that's kind of alarming in terms of that you want to say you want to grow and keep growing and fund the business through cash incoming by selling more. At the same time, you need to reduce the price, and also reducing, obviously, in the end, your margins if you need to give larger discounts on the cars. Also, the problem with the NIO situation is now that we've got Q1 upcoming, which is, for all of the car brands, usually the weakest quarter in the year. So even though the outlook for the Q4 was very bullish and very strong, selling more than 8,000 cars, and which NIO obviously could also beat because they already knew the numbers by the time they showed those estimates in a way, because it's only just a couple of days left. I think the outlook that the management gives, like with all of the funding issues and how they want to grow with just bootstrapping and selling more cars, I think that's not enough in order to show private or retail investors like me, or maybe you as well, the confidence in having the funding secured. So that's currently the difference between, I would say, Tesla with Elon Musk, who can just go out and raise billions, like 5 billion last time without any issues, whereas the NIO management hasn't proven yet, even though they say like, oh well, it's so easy to get out and get funding. They still haven't proven yet that they can actually do it, because right now, even in China, the situation is not that favorable for raising money. So lots of VCs made bad experiences in the past years. You have the trade war going on, and now also Tesla has launched the Gigafactory 3 in Shanghai, started selling cars. So maybe some people are getting more and more worrisome about the situation of how well NIO could compete. And don't get me wrong, I'm still very excited about what NIO is doing. I really like the company. I actually also like the management, like who I had the chance of talking with, and Li Bin in terms of leader of this company. But still, the way that they're currently struggling in order to have the funding question secured is too worrisome for me in order to have a very big amount invested into NIO. I think as we have seen very recently, like yesterday, when NIO spiked again around 20% with new rumors that GAC, one of the NIO partners, might invest $1 billion into NIO. Made the shares go up, but that's all of the potential that the company has so far in terms of the share price, because as these rumors are all just rumors and nothing secure right now, for me the risk is too high. I will stay at the sideline. I have like 10% of what I initially invested left into NIO, so I also stay still very interested and supportive of the company. I think if they manage to raise the funds, they have years and years of growth and a very interesting market ahead. It's, I think, also a very important thing that NIO actually managed to has very unique value propositions for their customers and also for us as investors. But still, what they need to clarify now is the question of funding, and as long as they have not done so or have particular reasons and arguments for us to believe that they can grow, let's say, profitably, but that would be a huge step. I will for now stay on the sidelines and watch how they can cope with the future. All right, so what's your situation? Have you also invested in NIO? What's your average cost? Do you stay invested, or do you sell your shares like I did mostly? Did you manage to sell your shares profitably, or did you take a loss? Let me know down in the comments, and also let me know your views or any questions you have regarding NIO, and let's hope for the best. Let's hope that they will actually be able to raise the funds. Actually, I'm positive about that. I think they have very strong partners, a very strong value proposition, and also some deep IP, which I think lots of companies will be very interested to have and to have a stake in. So I think they should be able to close around, but they should do it very quickly, because now it's Q1 coming up, Chinese New Year coming up, so there's not a lot of revenues and potential outlook going on in the next couple of quarters, and until then I hope NIO can survive and make this growing story very successful in China, because the EV market, I think my look on that hasn't changed. Tesla is going full blast into the Chinese market, will be very successful there, and I think if a company like a Chinese and premium branded competitor, locally made, can be in a market, that's good for EV development in general, and I would love to see NIO to go global to the US and European markets. So looking forward to the future, and see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.